You don't see me back here.
Ignore the man behind the screen.
Exactly. Aaron, I'm coming the other week. When's the last day? Because we do the late lunch really early. The one meal, you just think of one. And then you can be in your comfy clothes at 6:30. Susan, I'm like 6 or 7 years older than you. I'm already.
Okay, you can come up now.
Welcome, everybody, to our monthly meeting of Gameaholics Anonymous. Thank you for being here today to support the Gameaholics in your life. We would like to welcome our newest member, Mr. Nai Wang. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Hi. Oh my gosh. There's real people here. Oh gosh. I don't know if I can remove this thing that's been attached to my head for 2 years. Let me give it a try. Woo! Oh gosh. People. You're not animated. That's so strange. I think I have to adapt now to this new reality. So, my name is Nai, and I'm here to admit that I am a gameaholic. You know, I was 2 years sober, and then some major event happened in the world that kind of disrupted my life. I don't know if you heard of it before, but it's cat videos from YouTube. Sorry. But the pandemic happened, obviously. I think we all went through it, most of us. Me and myself, I went through a different reality. And as you can see, this is me pre-pandemic. And then when the pandemic happened, I instantly gained 20 pounds overnight. I don't know what happened. It was just like, boom, there we go. Now my coats don't fit me anymore. My hair grew longer. Couldn't go and get my hair cut. Although it would have been easy just to buzz cut it, but I just kind of got lazy. And then I started coloring my hair. Never done that before in my life. Because, gosh, God forbid, my parents would kill me. But I did it, and unfortunately, now I'm addicted to it. So I was actually contemplating cutting it all off to come to this conference. But then I thought, oh, well, screw it. I'll just come in as my authentic self. And hopefully some of you will take me seriously, even though I have colorful hair. But it's been fun, because this is actually, just to kind of let you know, I did this 3 months ago, back in beginning of July. So this is like faded, but everyone thinks it looks great. So I'm like, I'm not changing it then. Anyway, so that was me before. The coat doesn't fit anymore, so I'm gonna ditch it. And come and talk to you about the gamer generation. So the pandemic happened, and I just wanted to mention that VR really took off that year, and I could have a lot to speak about on VR, but we're not going to focus on that. I'm going to touch on it, but it is, in my opinion, one of the futures of education, because there's so much innovation in that space. It's come down in cost quite a bit, and it's easy to pick up and just use. In fact, in my online experiences, I find that I play with more adults than children. So, like, we're talking about 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds picking up that headset and playing VR games, or even VR social, which was actually a very interesting thing. So I want to ask, anyone else do VR yet? Anyone else has experience VR?
I don't do VR, but I do 360 Amazonics audio engineering, so
Oh.
just for the audio for
That's
the,
very sophisticated. Awesome. Okay. So let's go through this agenda. We're going to go through a whirlwind hour. So we're going to talk a little bit about the video game industry because this is a critical piece because the industry is driving learning in a way. You know, and as a result of that, how it affects education. You know, giving you an example of what I did in gamification and directly applying it towards a math application, so you can actually see real world examples of that. And then I want to get you into the mind of the gamer, which is kind of understand your student and the games they play. So there's a lot of like really good connections that you'll learn and discover through this session. I'm going to give you some strategies and practices and things that you can actually take back to the classroom and actually implement immediately. And hopefully by the end we'll have some time for Q&A. So there we go. So I want you to prepare yourselves to crank it to 11. All right, we're going to go warp speed. Anybody a Trekkie here? Okay, good. All right, no. Okay, ludicrous speed. Okay, anybody Spaceballs? Okay, great. A few of you. All right, there we go. And I'm going to give you a brain dump. So there's a lot going on in this head, and I'm going to try to convey it to you in less than an hour. In fact, I've given this talk for the past 8 years at other conferences, and teachers have come up and said they've taken like 20 pages of notes based on what I've kind of revealed here. So there's a lot of information, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And I've actually done 2-hour versions of the session, and people like, is it over already? I'm like, yeah, so you've been here for 2 hours. You want 3 hours? So one day I'll do a workshop. So I want you to, oh, I messed up on that slide. To tell you a little bit about myself, just kind of to give you a little background of why I'm standing here in front of you today with colorful hair. So I had some disadvantages growing up. First off, I was made in Taiwan.
Oh, no.
And yes, that joke still sticks. Right. I know, we're in a new world, but I grew up in a Chinese restaurant. So because when my parents immigrated here, we opened up a restaurant like most immigrants do. And basically I grew up in that environment. I also had a lot of problems in education. So first off, I was English as a second language, and I couldn't read. In fact, I couldn't read a novel in high school. I mean, I just didn't have the ability to. And I had to go through 2 years of speech classes to be able to speak English properly, which I think my speech teachers did a good job. Wouldn't you say? Yes. All right, and then another problem I had was ADHD. So I'm sure a few of you might have a couple students who might have that issue, only a couple. So that was a challenge itself, especially growing up in a very strict, regimented Asian household, which does not understand ADHD at all. And I even failed in math. So the last bullet point is, because we were poor, being a restaurant, like my parents couldn't take me to a psychiatrist, put me on medicine, so I had to deal with the problems naturally and not chemically. So I had to live with it. My parents had to live with it. Somehow they survived. So what happened was, because I had to deal with it, I turned my problems into a superpower. So I actually have heightened senses. I can actually take on more information, if you talk about multitasking and things like that. Related to video games, I can actually look out in the world and I can see and understand and notice things far greater, be able to absorb information without even knowing it. And that's one of the things that gamers have the ability to, because they're taking in so much content. So naturally, growing up, I really gravitated towards video games because it had the sensory aspects that gave me the satisfaction to hold my attention. And then I taught myself programming because, hey, I love video games so much, why not make my own? So instead I went to education because I took my knowledge of food service and I partnered up with somebody and said, hey, I have this vision of creating this awesome way for students to learn, and I was taking programming classes at college, and then next thing you know, I created the industry's first multimedia AI-driven gamified culinary arts curriculum. So that's where I am. And then I went on to do what's called the Math Fluency Project. So taking a lot of that and applying towards underserved at-risk youth in that. And then recently I started a new movement where we're taking the AI engine and the program and opening it up for teachers to collaborate and create curriculum with that. So it's called KPW if you're interested. Anyway, so on to the NCPN.
Okay, we're going to stick this in here, and then I'm going to pour in the milk. I hope this works because I didn't bring a change of pants.
Look, I Googled it. It's a fake picture. That's it. No cake for you. Anyone else want to join the no cake club?
She's just kidding, boys and girls. Everyone gets cake.
Not him.
I love that show. It's sad to see it go, but it really, this clip represents like, what the kids are growing up with. They don't have a challenge of access of information. In fact, they have access to almost too much information. But remember, when we were going to school, we had to go to this place called what was this called again? Library. And actually go to a card thingy called, what was it called again? And we're using what's kind of system? Okay, good, you guys still remember. And actually had to go and actually physically go and pull out that volume of information and then actually read it. Or even worse, when you're doing a research project at the university and you have to go and use this little thingamajigger and scan it using this thing, what's it called again? Microfiche, yeah. So anybody not used microfiche before? Okay, a few of you. I know the younger ones have. Yeah, fun stuff. So that we had to work for information. And we had to base like a year's worth of research on a few articles because that's all the time we had to do it. Now we have we do research and we have 1,000 articles to now wade through. So we have the opposite problem. So let's go back to where did it all begin. Well, anybody remember this? Yes. So back then, when this game came out, it was simple, but it was fascinating to the human mind because for the first time ever, we were able to manipulate a non-physical object in virtual space and actually cause it to do something. And that just basically opened the world of possibilities because we didn't have that imagination. We play ping pong, that's a natural thing, but now we could move this paddle around using a little dial and actually move and have the ball move around. So that was really exciting, which then led to Pac-Man and further innovations in the technology to game consoles, games that go really fast, and it just keeps accelerating and becoming more and more advanced. When this game came out, Pokemon Go, in 2016, it completely changed the landscape because for the first time, people weren't sitting in front of a couch playing a video game or on a console. They were actually going out into the real world and interfacing with these Pokestops. In fact, I've been playing it all week because there's a special Halloween event going on right now. Anyway, but the thing is, people went out and actually did this when it first came out. So basically, people were crazy about Pokemon, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you can actually go out and catch it and play," and that created a global phenomenon. It was crazy that one game got to the hearts of so many people. And then later came a game called Fortnite. I'm sure a few of you have heard that game before. It's free to play, so that's why it gained so much popularity. But people can battle out with each other. Another game changer. And then in 2020, during the pandemic, Meta came out with the Quest 2, which was actually they had the Quest 1, but the Quest 2 is much better, which was a very good entry level into VR, and a lot of people came on board and entered into the metaverse, which is very fascinating. In fact, I was reading a philosophy book called Reality Plus. It's called Reality Plus. It was written by a professor in 2021 who actually experienced this, talking about how virtual reality is reality and reality is virtual reality, and he made arguments about both. It's a fascinating book if you want to read it. But because of that, I actually went into VR social and talked to people. And it's just like people love it because they go, oh, I could just put the headset on and then I can interact with my friends. I don't have to go anywhere. And it was very comforting actually and because I'm a gamer. I mean, it's natural to me, but I'm talking to people who are, just regular people who aren't gamers and making some friends online. Anyway, so are there any gamers here? So first off, anybody here start off going to the arcade? Okay, so you go to a smoky bar or a pizza parlor and you actually had to go to the arcade to play these games, so you actually physically go there. Then the consoles came out, so when you were introduced to the Nintendo, the Atari, so now we brought the game home and you actually still play these games at home. Then PC gamers, any PC gamers in here? Okay, a few of you, good. So these productivity machines that are supposed to be used for word processing and spreadsheets are now used for games a lot. Back then I had my PC and then I played SimCity, which was a lot of fun. Then we got into portable games. Anybody do Game Boy at all? Or like? So then now it's become handheld. So we saw this evolution where now it's become ubiquitous because every smartphone is now a gaming device, and that's exploded the industry because before you had to pay for these expensive hardware, and now a smartphone, which is still expensive, but it's an essential part of our lives, is now a game. And so I asked this earlier. So we had like a few hands for VR. Oh, okay. And then anybody here play Solitaire, Words with Friends, or Wordle? Okay, so you're a gamer as well. So if you think you've escaped being a gamer, you're a gamer. That uses gamification principles. All right, so this is basically how the entertainment industry has shaped the minds of our kids. So back in the good old golden age, we had, as kids growing up, we would sit in front of TV, and the parents would be like, okay, I got to get my kids, give them focus, so let's put them in front of TV and watch Saturday morning cartoons. So we grew up watching like Felix the Cat, SpongeBob, Smurfs, Mickey Mouse, and stuff like that. So as a kid, you learn, okay, to make my parents happy, I have to sit here and watch this too, and the story is being given to me, and so I'm passively taking the information. Okay, so that's basically what we learned as a kid. And then we go to school, and we sit in nice neat rows, and the teacher's up front, and they're saying stuff to me, and I'm like, okay, I get that, because I grew up learning that I'm passively absorbing information, and that works for me. So that worked until video games came out. Then the world has changed. So instead of being entertained passively, now we're playing games like Pokemon, Zelda, Mario, I love Mario, and Sonic, and now we're controlling the narrative. We're actually making decisions as to how I go through the level, how I go through the game, whether I want to get 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 points. So I have all these choices to make, and I'm actually controlling the story. And I go to school, sitting in front of a teacher, who's not employing any kind of active learning models, and then they go, here's our lecture. And then I'm like sitting there, well, when I was growing up, I had all these choices. I could make decisions. I could fail at something, learn from my mistakes, and then succeed again. But now I'm just sitting here being lectured at, and what happens? We go to sleep. We create disconnect. So the entertainment that these kids are absorbing throughout their lives is shaping the way they consume content. And we need to be able to cater to them at their level. Now, we cannot create a video game, obviously, because that's impossible, but we can employ gamification strategies and techniques. So we're going to talk a little bit about video game addiction, because this is a very important fact. So before 2018, people did not believe that video games were actually a real addiction, but then the WHO came out and said, yes, it is. It triggers the dopamine receptors in our brain that simulate chemical dependencies. So it's a psychological dependency. So it is officially an addiction, and we must treat it as such. So why is it so addicting? Well, first off, when you're playing games, it's a temporary escape. You're escaping from reality, like such, and being absorbed in that game. I would play a game, and sometimes I would look up and go, where the heck did 6 hours just go? So that's when you're totally absorbed in the moment. Anybody play Civilization here before? Yes, one more turn. Yeah, you got it. All right, so it's also social and anonymous. So if you're doing an online game, you're getting the social feed, but you can also be anonymous. So you don't have to be your real self. You can be anything you want. It also creates a challenge and has a goal. So those things like drive motivation. And the most important thing, and this is something we as educators can tap into, is that it provides constant measurable growth. So whenever you play a video game, you're constantly bombarded by how many points you've earned, how much gold you've gained, how much skill, how much this, that, the other. Like you're constantly being fed. Oh, I'm getting more and more and more, and the bar's moving across the screen. It's all this kind of feedback. So, I hope has anyone not seen Ready Player One? Anybody? Okay. So basically, this movie based on a book. This movie was made by Steven Spielberg. It kind of sums up the virtual reality.
And I ended up here,
In a dystopian future, which is
sitting
now.
here in my tiny corner of nowhere. There's nowhere left to go. Nowhere. Except the oasis. A whole virtual universe. People come to the oasis for all the things they can do. But they stay because of all the things they can be.
So you heard what he said. Like you go there for all the things you can do, but you stay for all the things you can be. So that's what the virtual or just any video games do. And like I said earlier in the introduction, AR and VR will become the future of education. Because lack of tangible resources and also creating the virtual environment to simulate, like if you're especially in career tech ed, that level of skill-based learning, especially AR. AR is going to become a huge space. Last week, Meta released their Quest Pro, which is their AR glasses that is designed not for consumers, but it's for prosumers and developers to create AR spaces. It's a cheap $1,500, which is cheap because prior to that, other AR, VR, like Microsoft HoloLens, costs upwards of $5,000 to $6,000 plus $1,000 a year subscription. So they're gonna again make a game changer here. So another thing that yes, Maslow's hierarchy of gaming needs. So gaming creates set levels of satisfaction. So first, it promotes a sense of self-belonging by creating social interactions. Secondly, self-esteem. It builds up your self-esteem by overcoming challenges. And third, creates self-actualization. Sorry, my speech therapist didn't do a very good job. Self-actualization by contributing to a living world. So a lot of these online games, you're building into an economy, you're building into a group or a clan or things like that. So these things like really create that level of addiction. And if you're interested, I'm actually recording this video, so if you want to watch it again or share it with friends, go to this website, KP. So KP stands for Knowledge and Practice, and it's just a simple form that you just like name, email, and then I'll email you the video and this PowerPoint, which is about 500 megabytes, it's huge because of all the videos and other resources. Oh, which in fact I forgot. I didn't print enough of these copies, so I'm going to have to. Would somebody volunteer to kind of pass it? Oh, you will. Thank you. Like do like every third person or something like that, and then I could give you a copy. Just kind of share. It's like a little worksheet that kind of like you go through to when you're thinking about gamification, and you could you'll be able to download that as well. So it's more like a in-class visual aid. So go to KP. I'll send you one email. I promise only one email, and then I'll not talk to you ever again, unless if you want me to. But then I'll talk to you because I have a lot to say. All right. So moving on. video games are a multi-billion-dollar industry, in the billions. So in 2015, I saw something very unusual. There was a ad. Then you watch the Super Bowl for the commercials, of course, and usually you're watching like movie trailers, cars, beer, Doritos, that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you. So it looks like we have a few extras. Okay, and then I saw this ad, which is a game I played on Super Bowl. Oops, did I move it up? Oh, I guess. But okay, so it's a game called Clash of Clans. So I don't know if you've heard of it before, but it's a mobile game. You build a base, and then people attack you. You attack other people. It's free. And I'm like, oh gosh, this free game. How can they afford a Super Bowl ad? Super Bowl ads are expensive, right? Well, this game that's free can afford it because they earn about $5,573,127 a day. And this figure was like pre-pandemic, so it's probably more. So you think that this free game that nobody has to pay a single dollar for makes that much money per day. And it's a small development company out of Finland, back then consisting of like about 20 people. So they're making bank. So the video game industry is a $200 billion industry. Whereas compared to the movie industry, pre-pandemic, is a $41 billion industry. So you think of all the Marvel movies, all the Star Wars movies, all those blockbusters, they pale in comparison to video games because we have it all in our hands now. And a lot of it's free, quote unquote. In fact, I'm going to take a picture of your smiling faces here. Thank you. There we go. And post it on Twitter later. All right, so you can see that wherever the money goes, development's going to happen. And VR is starting to catch up. In fact, if you look at this, in 2012, we're looking at console games, which is the blue. This is PC games, which is the green, and this is mobile gaming. So at the time, they consisted of 18%, and then you can see how it kind of really exploded over the years. 2019, 2020, 2021. It is just, and you can see how these other platforms stayed relatively the same. In fact, it's projected that it's going to get even higher for 2022. So they're here to stay, and they will create addiction because if they can take your money, they're going to do it. So anybody here heard of esports? Yeah, esports. Like when I talked about this 3-4 years ago, I might get 1 or 2 affirmatives, but now it's becoming part of it. Anybody have an esports club in your schools?
Yeah, we started giving out scholarships and developing like esports teams and all that good stuff.
Awesome. There's a lot of great resources for esports out there, and if you haven't entertained the idea, start a club because it's a way to create engagement. So what esports are is basically like a bunch of kids got together and they would compete with each other. They don't have to do it like in this space. This is like a grand tournament. But it's so popular that let's look at this little clip from a Overwatch league that happened. So this is an Overwatch game that happened. This was like in 2018. Oops. And stuff over here.
Atlanta fans make it rain at their PG homestand, and the Stage 3 playoffs field is set. This is your Overwatch League Minute.
So you see these
8 teams
quote-unquote
converged on
nerds
Atlanta over the weekend for the league's
are now being
second
featured like
homestand
sports
event.
figures.
The hometown Rain won both their matches,
Like
delighting
LeBron
the crowd
James.
and breathing new life into their season playoffs
Or
prospects.
Michael Jordan.
Back in Los Angeles, the 8-team Stage 3 playoffs field is officially set. On Thursday, the action gets started when Dante and the Outlaws take on
Look
Twilight
at me, I'm
and the
bad.
Titans at 6 p.m. Pacific. That
Look
match
at-
will be
I'm gonna
followed
get
by a
you.
clash between Team and the Dragons and Mono and the Excelsior.
Yeah.
On Friday, Marvel and the Dynasty face
So these are
Sinatra
just
and the Shock
regular
at
kids
6 p.m.
who play
Pacific.
video games.
Directly after that match, Kareem
Boom.
and the
Here are
Valiant
my
take on
sights.
Gooshway and the Spark. The semifinals and finals will take place on Saturday and Sunday.
When
This has been your Overwatch League Minute.
when you look at something like this, kids who are playing video games and seeing this kind of coverage, you're like, I could do that. This is totally accessible to me. Like, if you're watching basketball or baseball or football, like, that's like, you have to be physically gifted to be able to do that kind of stuff. I mean, sure, like these kids are fairly well gifted, but video games are so accessible that you could dream to become a esports athlete and make a lot of money doing it too. So like scholarships, so esports is so hyped up that we actually have more people viewing esports than traditional sports, and multiple colleges are offering scholarships. So and building leagues. In fact, I was speaking to someone where they were talking, where that the colleges were using it as a recruitment method to build teams and to get students to come, especially with the HBCUs. So anybody here heard of Ninja on Twitch? Only probably a few of you. But if you say, hey, do you watch Ninja to like any of your students, they'd be like, yeah, I love Ninja. So Ninja is one of the most popular YouTube and Twitch streamers. So this guy plays video games constantly online. So as of last year, he has about 4 million subs or subscribers. So 4 million people subscribe to his channel and get notified when he's playing a game. And typically, most of them watch it live. So this is how much money he makes, $700,000. That's a lot of money, but he does that per month. So kids are watching this and going, this guy makes $700,000 per month playing video games. I want to be a streamer now. And through endorsements, he's made over $100 million through sponsorships and deals. So this guy who just started playing video games online is now a multi-millionaire. So these are the things. So this is what Twitch looks like. This was when he was featured on CNBC a while back. All right, so it's a big deal in education because like teachers are joining leagues. It has the same effects as traditional sports. It promotes, this is very important, diversity, accessibility, equity, inclusion actually, because a lot of non-participants, like people who don't do clubs, who don't do any kind of like extracurricular, will join the esports league. They don't have to compete professionally or anything like that. They can just still be part of a group. Like remember the slide that says sense of belonging? Yes, sir.
I know, because I go out and talk to a lot of high school and middle school students, and the one thing that most students get excited about is when I mention our esports team, and then they start to ask about the different careers that they can do and go into dealing with career and technical education at the college that I work for. So I know it's really, and we just implemented one probably like a year and a half ago. So it's bringing a lot of students that are interested in technology. So.
Yeah, very good example. So it is making a huge difference. In fact, I was going to have a session on specifically on esports here, but they didn't give it to me because, and if anybody's, okay, word of caution, another company's doing that presentation and it's a commercial. So if you go to it, don't think esports is that. Okay, I'm just letting you know if you. Because I've been to that session. I'm like, okay, don't tell them that I actually learned less in that session than I did. It was pretty bad. I went to the session at ACT thinking, oh, this is going to be awesome. Anyway, sorry, that's an aside. So, but I don't want you to go to that session and thinking this is what esports is about. It's definitely not. In fact, if you, in the thing, I did a session at Making Schools Work, where I interviewed teachers and students, so I could send you videos of those. Those are awesome sections because you're actually hearing from teachers like yourself how they started the league, how the students perceive it. So we actually had a panel on that. So anyway, so promotes sense of self-belonging, increases attendance, creates student and family engagement, so the families get involved as well. Of course, SEL. Okay, so enough about esports. Let's move on. Here, my entire goal is to build empathy for your students, for people like myself, maybe with colorful hair, maybe without. Okay. So because the more you know about these grade schoolers growing up, in your classroom, but they go home and play video games, to middle school, high school, and college and beyond, the more you know. Yeah. pulling out some old school stuff here. Well, like this
Now
one.
we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Yes. Back in the good old days. Knowing is half the battle. Because what we're doing is we're catering to the accelerated mind. So I'm going to show you this video, and don't blink. This is a video from Overwatch, and I play this game, and I cannot compete at this level. But just look at this and what you see happening here. So this is just a game where you're going around, you're shooting other people, and you're trying to win for your team. So you can see that's a lot of stuff going on. So let me just pause it for a second here. So a lot of stuff going on. Okay, so okay, here. So basically, your focus of attention is on the center because that's where you're shooting at. But on the periphery, there's so much data going on that you probably can't even notice it. So I just want to describe. This is your team, and this is showing the health of your members. So you can see how everyone's doing. So you go, okay, my team is doing well. We could go for an attack, advance against the enemy team, which all their healths or they're being destroyed. Over here, this is like my health and my information. Over here, this is my my weapon specials. So when I use a special, the bar gets depleted, and then it slowly increases, letting me know when I can use my special power again. So I have 2 special powers. I have my main gun with 32 rounds of ammo left in it, and I could kind of go there. And this shows what's going on with who's killing who in the game. And then this is a capture the control point. So basically, we're holding on to a position and waiting for this bar to fill up. And this is showing kind of like the score between the 2 teams. So all this data, and then this is like what we call the mega special. So as I'm going through this game and I'm collecting more energy, this will fill up, and then I could do this like massive move. So all this information is going on while this kid is playing a game, and they're able to take that information, process it, and actually do something about it. So insane, isn't it? Is it humanly possible? Well, yes, it is. But the thing is, like, we didn't grow up in this environment. Our brains are not designed to process this level of detail and information. I could probably run around 60 to 70% of what these kids can do, because I kind of grew up in that environment. But the kids now, they're like leagues over, and they just wait 10 years from now. Gosh, they're probably going to be supercomputers by then. So it's just insane how much information is being thrown at them. And not all games are like this, but a lot of the popular ones are like this. Like if you're playing real-time strategy, like I like, then you're like you see like how much mana and how much gold you have, and where your troops are, and you have to move them around, and it's so much information. So can we meet them at their level? Well, the answer is no. We cannot compete against that. We cannot do that kind of level of processing, nor should we, because they're not. That's not learning. But we can meet them at a similar level. So I want to show you just a simple thing what I've done in math and gamification. So if we're looking at like underserved, at-risk youth, in where I'm from in Arizona, it's mostly minorities like African American, Native American, and Hispanic kids. So we went to a 4th grade school, and we started developing this process. So first thing we did is we asked them, what's 5 plus 4? And the answer is, no, it's 9. So all of them had to go to their fingers and count out 9 because they could not process 5 plus 4 in their head. They did not know that information. So this is one kid where basically after about a couple months of playing this quote-unquote math game, you're going to see this. And this is just him showing off. He's like, okay, we got
You ready?
a
Okay.
good round. And you'll see that his classmates are doing this at the same time. So 2 months. Every green square means he's getting it correct. He has 1 minute to answer as many as he can. So that's a challenge. How many can you get correct in a minute? And you can see that the x is actually moving on both sides of the equation, so you have to think diversely. and we got pluses and minuses, but he's getting it correct. But he did not start out here. He started out 0 + 1, 0 + 2, and slowly built up confidence that he could process this information to the point where now he's able to do this in a blink of an eye. Isn't that impressive?
Yes.
So you can see, this is not a video game. You don't see things flying around. You don't see data going all over the place. But giving feedback, you're seeing the time. But the challenges are really driving these students, and also success. Success is key as a part of this whole entire process. And there's actually a principle called the success zone.
60 and 0 wrong.
60 and 0 wrong. Look at that.
So it's 60 in a minute. So that's zone of proximal development. But you can see how that's done amazing things for him and his peers in that class where they started out this way. And this is just like
You like
a couple months later.
Yes, man. Yeah. All right, let's see another game there.
So I want to show you like
Famous.
some progression.
Famous.
Let's see here. Can I zoom in? Oh. Of course, I stopped the video, but you can see that the problems are a little more complicated here. That's good. I'm actually going to play it this way. This way I can zoom in really well. Oh, okay, why did the video... Oh, I know why. Because this projector is set up a certain way where it doesn't allow for, well, then in that case, then I'm limited to the projector settings. Let's go to display settings. Let's do duplicate. Sorry about this. And then let's scroll through all these different slides until we get to where we're supposed to be. Anyway, so so you see, like, he's improved a lot. He was working on, there were some words being thrown into the fray. And basically, we're showing incremental growth. So, each level is something that's just a little harder than the next, and the next, and the next, until, in less than 80 days, we get to something like this. Let's just...
Okay, go.
My name is Ryan. I'm fourth in the nation, and I have 209,000 points and 17,353 questions.
Okay, let's do it.
So you heard he said fourth in the nation. So there's actually 3 other kids that are better than him. So, go ahead and, so you see, like, now he's on a level where he's processing word problems. That says Chromie needs 18 gears if, oops, dang it, I guess that doesn't work that way. And if Chromie needs how many more? So that's the question here.
Are these all the same questions? Is it memorization, or are they new
No,
problems every time?
there's a system where we scaffold multiple different levels. So they're in the same vein. So they're getting used to that, but then it's also very diversified at the same time. So they're not memorizing at all. There's no way they can memorize it. Anyway, so let's just go.
What system is this?
Okay, go.
Oh, it's just a system we developed called the Math Fluency Project, and we're actually looking for more people to pilot and test this out in school. So if you're interested, let me know. And we're providing, like, pretty much free access. Providing grants so that schools can use it, and we're just gathering data, research data on this. So this is only a few years old. We had to take a 2-year hiatus from the pandemic because one of the key principles, which is I'm going to get to here, is so they answer 500 to 1,000 questions a day, and not lose motivation. That's the key.
What age groups does that?
Oh, actually, we're all the way up to adult ed now.
Oh, wow.
So adults, they build their confidence too, especially for GED. Gets them used to taking, like, these online tests. So they. So do you guys want to go home? No. You want to keep playing?
Yeah! I never liked math, but they made it to a video game.
Yeah. So a lot of these videos were from younger groups because that's where we started testing it out in elementary. So we started at 4th grade, then we went down to 3rd, 2nd. We're actually testing kindergarten, preschoolers now, teaching them 10 key. So it's amazing that we have these kids who are able to answer what's 30 plus 50, which is a very difficult concept, or even doing mice problems. But it's a slow progression at that age group. But imagine a kindergartner be able to do like high-level math by the time they get to first grade. That's just So anyway, but all the way up to middle school, high school, we see the biggest improvement because these kids are coming in Algebra 1 and at the senior level, and they have so much dysfunction because they don't believe in that they can do math, and then they start to build up. Because what happens is they start at level 1 and they climb this ladder, and then once they get to a standard that they miss in, like, let's say second grade, they work on it and they build it, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can subtract in my head again. Or now, not again, because they never had that ability. So they're building these lost skills. So this is one of the key things that's also motivating them. So they were just doing these math problems, but in front of the class, they have this goal of 20,000 points. So the class is doing it all together. So we're creating this group cohesion. So we have a class goal. So this is also a motivator. So this is the social element of getting the class to goal. And we have these points that are going up. So this is a projected in front of the screen, so it's not on their screen. And we see that they've answered 123,000 questions correctly as a class. They've spent cumulatively 132 hours of math time. We have our epic goal, so when they reach this goal, they'll get a pizza party. So yay, rewards. And we see, like, the student with the highest badge. We have a race going on here against other classes. So these are like these other elements we brought in to create that level of motivation. So showing incremental growth. Now this is also projected on the screen, which is showing the kids and the leaderboard. So the kids are ranked according to how much they scored. And the bar moves across the screen, as you saw earlier, until they get to their goal. So each kid has a personalized goal. So this kid has a goal of 1,600 points, whereas this kid has a goal of 200 points. So we have special needs kids in the classroom, but they're able to contribute at their level. So they have adjusted goals that are adapted to their own personal ability. So that creates motivation. But you see we have a couple red bars. That just means that the student is having trouble, and that's when the teacher can perform real-time RTI, response to intervention, and actually help that kid out. And the others are fine, but then they can identify that kid and figure out what's going on and help them. So anyway, real-time diagnostics.
But honestly, like, once you get in there and you just get going, you completely forget that you're even doing math. It's honestly just really fun. And the whole class looks forward to it every day. We beg our teacher, we're like, oh, let us do it. Like,
so this is a high school at a special program there. Anyway, so I'm gonna save that one. This is a teacher, another teacher. You can watch the videos when you get the PowerPoint. So it has 9 scientific principles, okay, that we cover. So I'm not gonna go into that, but we use a lot of science and research to be able to get to that result. So what'd you think about it? Was it cool? Yeah. I mean, so if you're interested, contact me, talk to me. I'll get you set up, and hopefully you'll have success. I mean, I'm not gonna say we're 100% successful. It all depends on the environment and your needs as well. So, all right. So now I'm gonna talk a little bit about their language. We're running close on time, so let's go ahead and anybody heard of a term called grinding? Okay, so when a kid says they have to grind at a level, they have to grind this, basically it's a video game term, means that you have to do something over and over again to get points, goal, or something like that. So farming is similar to grinding, but you have to do multiple actions at once to really get somewhere. Like, I have a story, I won't go into the greater detail, but there was this game a long time ago called EverQuest. You've heard of it? Really old, before World of Warcraft, where basically you're in this like fantasy environment, and I went to a lake to go fishing. So you go to the lake, you hit the fishing button, and you do that over and over again to level up your fishing. And then after about an hour, at level 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when I got to level 10, I was able to buy the golden fishing rod. So I would go buy the golden fishing rod, go back to the lake, do that again for 5 more hours because it's so much fun. So then I could catch the rainbow trout. It's actually a rainbow color. And then I would then catch that trout. Then I could take it to the weaponsmith, and I could have the person craft a sword that I could use to slay the dragon. So that's grinding and farming, doing things over and over again to be able to do that. Kids talk about raids. So when you're raiding, that means you're going and doing a mission together. So one might be a healer, one might be a what they call a tank, or a knight. One might be an archer, one might be an assassin. So basically, they all have to work together to complete this raid. So it requires a lot of teamwork. Another phenomena that a lot of students like to do is called speed run. So when you complete a level, let's say I did it in 5 minutes and 38 seconds. I'd be like, oh, hey, that's great. Then I go to the online leaderboard and I see my friend did it in 5 minutes and 32 seconds. I'm like, how the heck did you shave 6 seconds off? And then he would tell me some tips, and I go and do it over and over again for another hour until I could shave off that time. So I'm doing it repetitively over and over again. And then we have what we call the 100%er or the perfectionist. So those are kids who, when you play a game, Far Cry. I don't know if you've heard that one before. But basically, you through the game, you complete the story, and it says, congratulations, you completed 66% of the game. You're like, oh, I finished the game. Well, there's all these side quests, all these things you have to find, hidden items. So developers do that to extend the life of the game. Because if you play the game, it would take 20 to 30 hours to complete. But then you do all those other things, you're looking at 100 hours. So kids are motivated by this also aspect. Like what you saw there with the greens. Some kids are so motivated by the greens that if they see a red, they feel like they're physically hit because they're like, I'm not 100%. So that's another psychological aspect of video games that are really ingrained in their heads. So thankfully, I'm only a 70%er. I'm a C average. I only had a 3-point-something GPA. So, all right. So when you talk about grinding, what does that sound like? Remediation. So these kids are being taught to remediate and do meaningless tasks over and over and over again to get some sort of reward through incremental growth. So they're already being trained to do menial things. But obviously we don't have to do it that way. So this is already in their psychology. So we just need to tap into that to provide them the incremental growth, give them the rewards, and then give them goals like that epic goal you saw there for the ultimate reward. So another thing I want to clarify is that gamification is not creating video games in education. So it's not like you have to create a game like Second Life. Anybody remember that? That was a bust. Because we can't compete against the video game industry. They're a multi-billion-dollar industry. How many $1 billion do we have in education? Wait, how many $1 million do we have in education? How many thousands of dollars? So we can't compete at that level, nor should we. All right, so here are a few steps to gamification. I know I went on a little longer in the math, so I'm just going to breeze through these. So you got to know the audience, define clear learning objectives, explain the relevance, structure an experience with a goal in mind, create badges, rewards, milestones, and currency. So currency is actually a very good motivator, and I'll give you an example of that. And so that they can spend the currency on special items, passes, and things like that. So give a student a special ability. And also give students choice. Choice is also, that's hard because some of the subjects you teach, you don't have a lot of leeway or choices, but this is when creativity comes into mind. So if you want to take a picture of this is a guy that I interviewed a few years ago where he created these special cards. So if you earn enough points, you could trade it in for a special ability. He works with middle schoolers. So one of the abilities is to be able to eat a snack in class. So you could spend your currency so you could freely eat your snack in class, or you save up your currency and you could get a extra point on your exam. Simple little things, but that gives students a goal because when they think about these points and values, they're like, do I want to get this right now? Or do I want to save up for this ultimate goal? And then it creates more engagement, so the more times I raise my hand and answer questions, the more points I get, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really amazing. This one's called the aspect of the chipmunk, and it's 1,200 points. They call them Wood coins because his name is James Wood. And it gives the power to snack in class, like you said. And if you're looking for a really good book that was recently purchased, there's a book by Rand Sheff and Nikki Mohan called Making School a Game Worth Playing. So it's chock full of great gamification ideas and studies. So there we go. Anybody need an extra time on this? Yeah. Okay. apologize. I might run a little over time because I still have. We did spend a little more time talking about some other stuff, so I might have to. So if you have to leave for lunch, I understand. All right. So this is also very important. So everyone knows Myers-Briggs, right? So what are you? I am an INTJ. So what?
ENTP.
ENTP. Anybody else? So if you know your Myers-Briggs, or you have your students do a Myers-Briggs, this is a site that's really chock full of awesome information, and we don't have time to show it, but I'm INTJ, so I'm called the Visionary Mastermind. So if you go to this site and you look at your Briggs, then it'll tell you what kind of games you like, what kind of games you don't like, and who you can get along with, and how you interact with other people. So it's a really great glimpse into knowing like how the gaming preferences and Myers-Briggs correlate, and it'll give you more data and more insight into your students as well. Okay, everyone good? Now this next one's really amazing, and I encourage you when you have a chance to go to it and do it, which is creating your gamer profile. So what it is, it's a site called quanticfoundry.com. And if you have all your students do it, now if you're not a video gamer, they also have a board game version, so you can answer questions about board games. Like I like Monopoly and Dominoes, so etc. So basically what it does is it builds a profile for you and tells you more information about your motivations. So this is my profile, so I'm 89% action, immersion, 87%, hence the VR. A little less on the creativity side. Look, I'm 77% achievement, so I'm not a 100%er. Mastery, and I have aspects of social as well. So this will give you kind of like more insight into your student and yourself, and then you can start building because what it does is it creates a profile. Like I did this at a workshop over the summer, and it's surprising, not surprising. Half of the educators in the room came up as gardeners. Their classification as gardeners, which is basically people who are nurturing and a few. So they have like classification. So you can say, what class are you? Some people came up as dual class. So when you're dual class, that means you could work in 2 different realms at the same time. So it's really awesome information here. So I'm going to finish off with these few slides here. Just kind of let you know, goes into the gamer preferences. There's dozens of genres, and we're going to talk about the first one, which is the most popular, called FPS, which stands for first-person shooters, like Fortnite, Halo, Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, Overwatch. So when you think about these games, you think, okay, it's aggressive, violent tendencies. They're bullies. They're vindictive. All the negative things we see in the press about these video games. But then when you think about all these kids playing games, they're not really this. They're more like this. They're perceptive. They're team players. They have fast reactions. They're adaptive. They have all these. They're building these skills by playing these games as well. MMORPG, which stands for massively multiplayer online role-playing games, like games like World of Warcraft, Diablo, Dota 2, Star Wars, and even EVE Online, which is a space economics simulator. But these games, you spend hours and hours doing it, and you think that these kids are passive, antisocial, reclusive because you're sitting in the basement in front of a computer for hours. But really, these kids are developing team player skills. They have a good sense of economics, so they understand the world, like the items that they're collecting, how much they're worth. They have goals, so when you start out in the game, you have 10 different classes you could become. So you could be a wizard, or you could be a warrior wizard, or a monk wizard. So you have all these different trees and paths that you could go down, kind of like career paths. And they have great decision-making skills, and they're also awesome planners because you have to plan to play these games. You can't just jump in and just go with the flow. Few do, but you don't get very far. And there are other game genres in the slide deck, like action-adventure, fighter games, RPG, real-time strategies, simulation games, time wasters, which like like Candy Crush, which really have no redeeming value, and then AR, VR. So, oops, that was. Here's another book actually, Game On by the same authors. I want to mention this. Okay, the other one came out like years ago. This is the one that just came out recently. So, another great book. So if you just look at these authors, they have a lot of titles behind their name. Okay, so these are the slides. If you send me an email, I'll send it to you. Go to Minecraft and then AR, VR. Okay, so if you want to get a hold of me, you can find me in many different ways: email, Twitter, LinkedIn, friend me on Facebook, whatever. I'm pretty nice guy, I think. And if you're interested in the math fluency thing, that's the site that it goes to, and I'd be happy to share that with you and hopefully find some more success in a variety of environments. So, all right, and actually we concluded on time. Woohoo! Now, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this session. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope to see you around.
Thank you.